Hey everybody, welcome to a special edition of the KF Podcast, Remembering Stan Lee. We want to say thank you for listening. If you just stumbled upon us, check us out at kfpodcast.com and the KF Podcast on all your social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all that stuff. This is Dawn. With me today I have Brock.
Hello.
And I have Justin.
Hey.
And we are doing a special episode to remember the great late Stan Lee, who passed away this week. We were all very sad to hear this news. This hits the nerd community pretty hard. Even though he died at the lively old age of 95, it's still sad the passing of a comic book icon and legend as he was. He died this past week, I guess, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Apparently he was rushed there. He was battling, I think it was he had some pneumonia. He got sick. He was rushed to the hospital. He just didn't make it. I think his daughter actually broke the story. Isn't that right, Justin? To everybody?
Yeah.
So, it was sad. I saw a lot. Well, Brock, what was your first reaction when you read it? I know it stunned me pretty well.
I was out and about with Hope. It was on Monday. I was off work, so I had her. I was just going out and about, and my wife actually called, and she goes, "Where are you?" I said, "I just loaded Hope in the car. What's up?" She goes, "Well, don't start the car yet. I got some sad news." And I'm like, "Oh no, what happened?" And she's like, "Stan Lee passed away." And honestly, I've been preparing for this and expecting it for a while now. But whenever I got the news, it still hit me really hard. And I had to sit there for a minute, collect myself before I could actually, drive the car. I was pretty upset. It's definitely something you didn't want to hear, but you kind of knew it was coming because, 95 years old, and he's had a rough year. But, yeah, even though I kind of expected it soon, it still hurt.
Yeah, it was a shock. I actually saw someone post on Facebook, and of course, I had to fact check it because I was like, "Is this true? Is this for real?"
Well, because I think people have posted that he died multiple times over the last 5 years. So yeah, I did the same thing. I saw it pop up on Facebook and I went and looked and confirmed it. And it was very quick to get confirmed because every single media outlet was posting something about it. I saw something on not just the nerd sites like comicbook.com and stuff, but CNN had something up, and a couple of the other news, real news media outlets were talking about it. So it was a big deal. For me, I'll admit, everybody who listens to the show knows I'm not an old-time comic book reader. I've gotten into this through, watching cartoons as a kid, and then the movies that have been coming out as over the last, 10 or 15 years. But so it didn't have a deep impact on me, but it's still, knowing that, Avengers 4 is probably going to be the last time we see him in a cameo.
Maybe.
And it's sad, but he lived a long life and was a big inspiration to a ton of people.
Yeah. So, just talking about some of the things he helped create, I know people go back and forth because they say some of the stuff he didn't create. He created a lot of stuff, let's face it, with Jack Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
The two of them did a lot together. Him, Steve Ditko, people like that. Those were the people that he created stuff with. Because he wasn't an artist, but he did write,
yeah.
he did create. And, some people I saw in comment sections saying, Kirby created all these people. I'm like, he had a big part in it. He had a huge part in Spider-Man, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Hulk. There was a ton of characters that he was responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
That, I know that Kirby drew a lot of these guys, but a lot of them I feel were his essence, from his mind, from his world.
Yeah, because before Stan Lee, comics were kind of boring.
They were.
Look at the pre-Silver Age characters that you had. It was just ridiculousness. The things that they would bite and things like that, and then they'd have different power sets all the time. But Stan Lee really humanized comic book characters. gave them problems, gave them issues that they're dealing with in their actual lives, not their superhero lives, and things like that. It really changed the game and made it interesting.
He did. Some of the characters looking through here, I mean, he's actually like if you go to Wikipedia, he's actually like a 2-pager to like get into some of the characters. I mean, notable ones, like that are popular in movies today: Ant-Man, Beast, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Cyclops, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Nick Fury, Galactus. There's a ton. I mean, a lot of the ones you think that are in movies today: Magneto, Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, Thor. These are all a lot based off stuff that he helped come up with, and to see how prominent they are now and how popular they are, it's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. He was very good too, like using like the sci-fi, like fantasy type genre to talk about issues of the time. Like X-Men were originally created to be like to represent like racism and things like that, and like Silver Surfer was like was Stan Lee's way of like, this is what somebody else is going to view humanity as a whole right now, like an outsider looking in kind of deal, which I thought he did really, really well with those kind of things.
Yep. So let's talk about some favorites. Justin, what are some of your favorite Stan Lee comics characters, themes? What?
So, I was thinking about this, and again, because I don't read the comics, my favorite is right off it's of his is Spider-Man. And I think for me the reason I went with Spider-Man is, I loved the Spider-Man cartoon when I was a kid growing up. And
which one's that? Like the 80s one or the 90s one?
The probably the 90s one.
Okay.
Is the one I remember, watching the most. I don't think I watched it much in the 80s, but definitely the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. And then, the movies started not long after that, and it's been, they've done it, how many movies now? They did 3 with Tobey Maguire, 2 with Andrew Garfield. They've got now
6, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 6 or 7, the 7th one coming out this coming summer. It's just, I like that character. I like the idea of, kind of a kid who's dealing with high school things, but is also kind of a kick-ass superhero. And, that's the one that I've watched and known about of his for the longest part of my life.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And Stan Lee was always the voice of those shows. He would always, he'd come on, this is it, true believers, and what are they going to do in this scene? And I always knew his voice before I knew who he was, because I'd watch those cartoons, and those cartoons helped get me into comics, and I always knew that voice, like him coming on and saying true believers and all that. Then I'm like, oh, that's that guy. Yeah, I've seen that guy before. His voice was great.
The best rogues gallery too of anybody.
Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. What's your favorites, Brock? Is it Spider-Man as well?
Spider-Man is probably the most important. It's the one that kept my interest and things like that. But X-Men was probably had the biggest impact on my life. Like what kept me interested in comics and the games and all that stuff. But just like, I also am a big fan of Daredevil because he's a superhero who's known for what he can't do as opposed to what he can do, which is an interesting spin on things. Like, this guy's super strong, he can do all this. Well, this guy's blind, and he had to adapt to, do what he does, kind of deal, which is neat.
Yeah.
Yep.
But going back, it's got to be X-Men. I was so into that as a kid because I'm a little younger than you guys. So 90s, the X-Men was the thing.
Oh yeah.
So that's where my Stan Lee love probably was most invested.
I mean, that's mine too. X-Men was the book that got me into reading comics. The Pride of the X-Men cartoon in the 80s is what started my love for them, and then them appearing in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, their cameos, and then starting to read. My favorite one of my favorite Stan Lee characters going with X-Men is Magneto.
Yeah, Magneto's awesome.
I think Magneto's one of the greatest villains of all time. He had a huge part in creating him. And he's just, the way he's evolved over the years, I think Magneto is amazing. Magneto in the 90s was amazing. Magneto in the 80s was amazing.
If you look at, like, this shows Stan Lee and how he created. He didn't just create this evil guy that they're fighting because there's an evil mutant to fight. Like, right. Magneto, you can see where he's coming from. Like,
right.
He's very human. Yeah. He's got there's a method to why he's doing the things that he does, and why, there's a reason for it all. It's not just, he's just an evil villain.
Yeah, he's not just pissed for no reason. He had a horrible childhood. He had bad things happen to him, and he's angry, and he's mad at the human race. And, there was always the comparisons that they would do that between like Xavier and Charles and Magneto being like a Martin Luther King and a Malcolm X, fighting for equality, fighting for their people, one peaceful, one doing more violent type stuff, and he took stuff that was happening in the world and turned it into comics and made it relatable for people.
Mm-hmm. And before him, I don't think anybody really did that.
Not at all. I don't think so. I think his stuff at that time, that's what made it. Like, when he created the Fantastic Four, that was different. It was a family. It was four people that love each other and care for each other. That was a unique superhero team. That was the first family of comics. Everything about that book is all family-based, and that was all him. The Hulk, another perfect example of someone that didn't want superpowers, but was given them, and wasn't like Superman, who still looked handsome and good and strong, turned into this rage monster that was uncontrollable and go crazy. It was a completely different spin on that, which look how huge the Hulk has come from all these years from him creating that. Mm-hmm. And that was such a unique, awesome story. His cosmic stuff, Galactus and the Watcher and all that stuff. I mean, God, you could go on and on and on with the list. But
he pretty much created or helped shape the entire universe that all these movies and everything are based on now.
Yeah, the whole foundation for it all are him. I can't think of any big Marvel players that aren't really tied to him.
No.
I mean, I guess he really didn't have much to do with Wolverine, but,
But without the X-Men, there wouldn't be a Wolverine.
Yeah, because he put him in the X-Men, and he took that character.
Or without Hulk, there wouldn't be Wolverines. He debuted in that book. So it's like...
Right.
Yeah. You can nitpick and say, like, oh, well, he didn't really create this character. But really, I mean, the influence he had in the universe he created laid the groundwork for every one of those characters.
Yep. For arguably the greatest comic book universe out there.
And I think it's pretty easy. It is. I mean, it's gotten a little muddled recently and things like that.
Yeah.
Because there's not somebody like him in charge anymore.
Yeah.
You have Gratian in charge now.
Yeah, it's different. It's different from the days. He actually retired from Marvel, in like the 90s?
Yeah.
And then, they always have him in the books, but he wasn't really tied to them in the 2000s as much. I mean, he sort of distanced himself a little bit there towards the end.
I think he was always on payroll, just so he wouldn't go anywhere else. But, I mean, yeah, he wasn't doing anything. He was just kind of like a figurehead at that point.
Yeah, someone that they would use. And when they started down the movie genre path, he was just someone they throw in their movies. I mean, his name's still in there now,
Yeah.
The day he died... Yeah, the day he died, I picked up Uncanny X-Men #1, and there's his name in there. So he's still around. It used to say Stan Lee Presents. Remember back in those days?
Yeah, when he was the editor.
He did a line over at DC.
Yeah, just imagine.
Yeah, he did that, like, other Earth, whatever Earth it was over there. Weren't they very similar Marvel-type rip-offs, though, that line he created?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was very 90s, so...
Yeah.
Kind of hard to...
It was different.
Judge that adequately.
Yeah. But they were...
This comic book.
We'll say that again?
He also did a Backstreet Boys comic book.
So his Just Imagine line, he had Aquaman, Batman, Catwoman, Flash, Crisis, JLA. He had a couple big ones underneath here. He did a DC Comics Presents Superman back in
He
04.
did one shots, right?
Yeah, a bunch of one-shots.
Elseworld book. They were under the Elseworld banner.
Yeah. I know he
It
did...
was cool to work with those characters, his spin and everything.
Yeah. I know he did some stuff later on for some a different company. I don't think that really... There wasn't really much.
Yeah, there's nothing really caught on. Like, they would try every few years, and then he would just go back to the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
And he would try his other properties and things like that to try and get him off the ground.
I liked his TV show he had there for a while where he was doing, like, real-life superhero-powered people.
Yeah.
Stan Lee Superhumans.
Yeah, Stanley Superhumans. That was pretty interesting. I just always liked hearing his voice. So
He had a great one.
He did have a fantastic voice.
speaking of his on-screen voice and his appearances, he became known later on in the 2000s for his Stan Lee movie appearances and all his creations. I think they said the total is close to 67 appearances. And
Wow.
this includes, do you know what his first appearance was in any kind of Marvel live-action stuff? Little trivia for you.
Would it be the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk TV show?
It was The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, 1989. He had a brief cameo as a jury member. Do you know what his first major movie appearance was?
X-Men?
X-Men in 2000. When Senator Kelly emerged out of the sea, he was the hot dog vendor on the beach.
Yeah.
And then he's been in all 20 of the MCU films, 5 X-Men films. He wasn't in all the X-Men films, just 5 of them. 5 of the Sony Spider-Man films and 2 of the Fantastic Four films. But he's had a whole bunch of other things that he's appeared in, TV shows, and he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He was in...
Big Hero.
Yeah, Big Hero 6. He had all kind of different appearances. So, I mean, Christ, he's been all through them. You know, a lot of people think he was the Watcher in all these universes. What's your favorite Brock appearance that he ever did in any of these movies?
I think probably the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was probably... I mean, it was... You know, it's like one person can make a difference, kind of. It was just like a positive, like... Because that's been used as a meme a lot this week because people, you know, are using that. So that's why that was fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Guardians of the Galaxy one, too, where he's like, look at this pervert over here. That was a funny one.
Uh-huh. Justin?
I think my favorite is from Captain America Civil War when he's playing the security guard at the museum at the end. And he comes in and he's like, I'm so getting fired for this. My other like honorable mention would be Iron Man. I think it's the first Iron Man when he pretends to be
You're stealing
Hugh
mine.
Hefner.
You're stealing mine. That was mine.
Ah, damn it.
You had to put 2 in there, and then you stole mine. His Hugh Hefner appearance in Iron Man 1 is my favorite. I think that one was great.
The library scene from Amazing Spider-Man was good, too, and the big fight's going on behind him, and he's just cleaning up the place or whatever. He's like a custodian, and everything's getting destroyed behind him. He has headphones on and misses the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was a funny one.
In Civil War, wasn't his appearance there as he's the FedEx man that goes Tony Stank?
Yeah, Mr. Stank.
Yeah, that was that one. Which one were you saying where he was the...
I thought maybe it was when, no, I'm sorry, right, not Civil War, it was Winter Soldier, when he's at the end, when Bucky comes in to the museum.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's Winter Soldier. He's a Smithsonian guard.
Yeah, Winter Soldier, sorry, you're right.
Yeah, he does the Tony Stank line in the, in Civil War at the end, when he's the FedEx guy. And then we finally saw him as a Watcher in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Which was
Confirmed.
Cool. Confirmed as a Watcher.
And he was talking about all his other appearances, which was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think they have him for Avengers 4. His scene's already done.
Did he get into Captain Marvel?
I imagine that's probably done. Yeah. I don't know how many he has going forward past that. I don't know.
I know they did one like all day thing with him where they tried to film a bunch of stuff.
How do you replace him in these movies? What do you do?
I don't know. I think you just shouldn't. Like, just let that go with him. Just out of respect, I think.
We've talked before about that we could see it being Deadpool.
Yeah. Which would be funny. I mean, because they usually are pretty comedic, his cameos. The Thor one was pretty funny, too, when he had the truck trying to pull the hammer out of the ground.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. I will for sure miss him in these movies. He was pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
I could say that I probably wouldn't be into the things that I'm into now, or my life would be completely different if it probably wasn't for this guy and the stuff he created that I got into and took over a big part of my life.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much that would not be out there without him.
Yeah.
I just wonder where comics would be if he never got into it. Like, if he never worked for Marvel, would they even be around right now?
Yeah,
I think probably would not be.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, I think somebody would take up the mantle and make superheroes cool, but would they ever get to the popularity that they are today?
Yeah.
Without him.
Because he made them relatable. DC's, they were always more godlike, more powerful, where he made, like, the everyman hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we'll end this one just saying, God bless him. Rest in peace, Stan. We love you. You will be missed.
All their contributions.
And thank you.
Dude, like a little more entertaining.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. We will see you later. Goodbye.